40 for Readable Crest Titans.
The RAC Rally is one of the most iconic events in rallying history. Reincarnated as the Roger Albert Clark Rally, the event has been gaining a new cult and new generations and armies of rally fans. And 2017 saw the Roger Albert Clark Rally return bigger and better than before, providing crews from the UK and beyond with a chance to compete on an event in the spirit of the original RAC Rally.
Are you looking forward to the weekend?
Yes. It's a fantastic event. I really love the rally. It was my dream when I was a kid, and it's a very nice rally. We enjoyed it tremendously in 2012. At this time, I hope it will be a good rally too. Well, we want the fog and the rain and the mud. That's why we're here, you know.
Just like the rally which this incarnation seeks to emulate then, this rally wouldn't head straight for the forests, instead taking on a spectator stage at Chelsea Walsh. And for the first time the cars would run both up and down the hill, a challenge which was providing an opportunity for some showboating to the crowds of fans gathered, as well as providing a challenge for some that proved a little too much on occasion. The old saying, of course, you can't win a rally in these spectator stages, but you can certainly put a pretty big dent in it. After the short spectator stage, the crews headed out to the forest then, for stages in Radnor and Epping. And it would be the newly crowned British historic champions, Jason Pritchard and Phil Clark, leading the way on their home stages. Roger Chilman and Brian Thomas, who of course used to co-drive for Malcolm Wilson in his British Rally Championship days, also take advantage of the more local stages on the event. Despite this being only the 5th rally for Roger in a rear-wheel drive car, it was clear he had the pace to challenge for a top result this weekend. But the pair would still have to watch out, going off the stage in Radnor and needing to be pushed out by spectators in the true spirit of this event. Thankfully, luck was on their side, and it happened after they'd crossed the finish boards. The top of the leaderboard would be filled with BHRC regulars, those who had done many of these stages in the previous months on British Historic Championship rounds, and using that to their advantage as well. Rudy Lancaster and Guy Weaver, one of such crews, lying in 3rd place at the end of the day. It wouldn't be plain sailing for everyone though. As we've always expected of this event, the attrition can be high, the pressure and the stakes even higher. Marty McCormack and Barney Mitchell will be having a few problems. The car developing a bit of a gearbox issue, not letting them select the gears properly. They'd planned to change the box overnight, curing the problem, or so they hoped. Adam Milner and Roy Jarvis would show some good pace on the opening day to lead Category 2. They had a problem with a sticky throttle, perhaps the reason they now had a 33-second lead. And it would be a lead over this pair, Chris and Ali Cornwell Brown. They lead the way in the C5 class at this stage, as well as 2nd in the category. Barry Jordan and James Grattan Smith would be another crew to find the Radnor stage challenging, and indeed another crew to go off the finish line of the stage. Thankfully, with the time already in the bag, it didn't affect their 3rd place in the category to end the day. Frustratingly for the spectators at least, Category 1 wouldn't see as big an entry as we've seen in previous years due to changes in the seeding. But the battle would still be good. Ricky Profit and Graham Wild bringing the Porsche back out on the gravel for the first time in 2 years and leading the way as they do. That lead would be over Bob Bean and Malcolm Smithson. Veterans in this rally, 2nd place in the category and just 45 seconds back from the lead in their familiar Cortina. And it would be 3rd place for fellow Cortina pairing Paul Mankin and Desmond Bell. A little way back from Bean, but the pair hadn't been out much in recent years. Not much gravel under those tyres then, but they're making up for it with this event. One of the interesting additions to the Roger Albert Clark is the Open Rally, a chance for some real variety for the spectators. And it would be the lead for David Hutchinson and Jeff Garnett. Apart from a bit of a mistake through a chicane, the pair were having a good, clean opening day, leading by just 9 seconds though, and that believe me, is nothing in the RAC. There'd be problems though for Henry Graham and Chris Rich. They'd been running second, but engine problems would put them in last place, meaning a long night ahead to get the car back out on day 2. So that would mean second place for Mick Plowman and Nigel Hutchinson in the Open Rally. The times were close at the top of the leaderboard, so they would be on a big push going into day 2. Dave Hemingway and Simon Ashton would end the day with third. Dave having competed on every Roger Albert Clark rally since it rekindled, running a car number 50 to celebrate Dave's 50th birthday this weekend.
Jason, day 1 rally leader. It doesn't get much better than that, does it?
Well, it does if it happens on Monday afternoon, but no, it's hardly any of the events been completed today, so tomorrow starts again fresh, so it'll be good. It's a long way to go, and we're still here, still in one piece. That's the main thing.
The Roger Albert Clark keeps, among its many tributes to the original event, a national theme, and with the Welsh leg of the rally complete, the crews made the long trip north to Carlisle, with Saturday's stages taking on part of the Kielder complex. And there would be no change to the lead as we enter Killer Kielder. Jason Pritchard, Phil Clark gaining a little more of an advantage in fact as the rally went on. The closest challenge to that lead would now have changed though. Marty McCormack and Barney Mitchell back with the new gearbox, pushing hard and showing exactly where they wanted to be had they not had those problems on day 1, climbing their way up to fight for that lead. Talking of fighting, here's a pair who come out of the blocks doing just that. Matthew Robinson and Sam Collis will be rounding out the podium places by the end of the second day. Still getting used to being back in an Escort after their previous 2 outings developing the Fiat 131 in various events. They wouldn't, however, have things easy. Roger Chilman and Brian Thomas close behind, despite Roger having very limited experience on stages in the north of England. Some would thrive on the challenge of the Roger Albert Clark. Some would suffer and fall by the wayside as we go through the event. It gets tougher as you go on. Not everyone will be having a good run. We lose Steve Bennett and Ocean Owen from the top of the leaderboard after the morning stages. They'd been running in 4th place overall, but crash out on stage 8. Seen here from on board the next car on the road. Thankfully, we're pleased to report the pair both okay, but going no further. And we'd also lose Frank Cunningham and Ryland James. They go off the stage earlier in the day, causing some damage to the front of the Sierra. But luckily, both crew okay, as we can see.
Frank, not the way you wanted to end here in Kielder.
No, it's just one of those things. I had said to myself on the start line, time to go to work and do the business today because the car certainly should be capable. And it's just trying too hard, I guess, too early in the day.
In Category 2, there would be no change at the top. Adam Milner and Roy Jarvis still leading the way, but they were losing some water from the engine and there was still an awful long way to go. To add to their problems, Jimmy McRae was on a charge into second place with Pauline Gullick alongside, moving the right way on the leaderboard and everything going to plan in the car. This car really suited to the quick stages and surely Jimmy McRae would soon be in Milner's mirrors. Sadly though, for the fight, we'd lose more crews as the rally went on. Barry Jordan and James Grattan Smith would be one of those, having to pull over when the diff on the Avenger started to tighten up. Game over for them after such a promising start. There's frustration, but it is on the right side of retirement for Chris and Ali Cornwell-Brown. Losing a little time in a ditch, no doubt a bit of a scare along the way, but they do get going quick enough and maintain a podium place in the category at this stage. In Category 1, there'd be some changes to our leaderboard. Bob Bean and Malcolm Smithson would now take the top spot with a significant lead over anyone else. A familiar sight and a familiar place to be on that leaderboard for Bob. For Paul Mankin and Desmond Bell, it would be second place. There would be no catching Bean on the times alone, but they would be there to pick up the pieces if things didn't quite go to plan for the new leaders. You may be wondering what had happened to previous category leaders. Ricky Profit and Graham Wild will be having suspension problems, dropping time and struggling to even get through the stages. Third place for the pair at this stage on a rally that was turning into more of an endurance test. In the Open Rally, though, there wouldn't be much change through the evening stages. David Hutchinson and Jeff Garnett continue to lead the way by just over a minute now. For Mick Plowman and Nigel Hutchinson, it would still be second. They had a small advantage in that place themselves as well. Day 2 hadn't been going quite to plan for Dave Hemingway and Simon Ashton. They spent 25 minutes in a ditch in the morning stages after this quite innocuous-looking slip off the road. Thankfully, with the help of spectators, they do eventually get going again. And by the end of the day, will be in 4th place.
Is he going to drive or not?
Now.
And it was fair to say that things weren't going to plan at all for Henry Graham and Chris Ridge. Engine failure on day 1 saw them restart on day 2, some serious work overnight, only for them to roll the car out of the rally later in the day. They would, however, get the car sorted once again and back out again for day 3, making their service crew work so hard, just like the original RAC ones sometimes had to.
Henry, you right?
Yeah.
Okay, check your oil pressure.
Yeah, it's not been bad. All gone to plan. Just kept it tidy in the middle of the road and just tried to keep the lead at what it is. But it's a long way to go. We're only halfway through the rally, so it's only a spin or silly mistake. So we're just trying to keep concentrated and do our best on every stage.
Day 3 would see a different challenge for the crews, heading into Scotland for the stages today, and that would see one of the biggest shake-ups of the rally so far. We lose our rally leaders, Jason Pritchard and Phil Clark, on stage 21. The drive shaft braking on the car not far off the start of the stage, forcing them to pull over.
130. Just goes left to start, maybe.
The axle's gone.
Is it?
Yeah.
3 left plus.
Yeah.
1 right long, max opens.
Yeah. It's over.
Okay.
The junction here somewhere.
3 left over the unseen bridge. Oh, there you go.
So that, of course, meant the lead now for Marty McCormack and Barney Mitchell. A good advantage in that place would, in theory, see them able to back off for the final day. But we know that nothing is that simple, and it's very easy to tell a rally driver to back off. It's not so easy to see them do that. Matthew Robinson and Sam Collis would move up to 2nd place with the loss of our leaders. There wouldn't be much they could do on times alone, but they would be there waiting for something to go wrong for the new rally leaders, or just waiting for that little bit of luck to be on their side. And it still could be. There was still a long way to go. But with half an eye in front, they'd also have the other half behind. They'd have to hold off advances from Roger Chilman and Brian Thomas, still chasing down Robinson, and in fact closing the gap to just 14 seconds now. For Rudy Lancaster and Guy Weaver, Scotland was about to take its toll. The pair have a small off on the opening stage, needing the help of spectators to get the car back on the road again. But worse was to come on the next pass of the stage, this time rolling the car off in a much more dramatic fashion, meaning the end of their 2017 Roger Albert Clark rally. In Category 2, just like in our overall leaderboard, we'd see some changes. We lose Adam Milner and Roy Jarvis after an impressive run so far. They go off the road, seen here from on board a following competitor. So the attrition and the endurance of the 2017 event was playing into the hands of this man, Jimmy McRae, with Pauline Gullick alongside. They now take charge at the front of the category. They were having a bit of an issue towards the end of the day as well themselves that would need checking over in service. So could things all change again? Those changes at the top, of course, meant places gained for everyone behind. And that would mean 2nd place for Chris and Ali Cornwell-Brown. They must have felt like their luck was back on track, feeling that they could be a bit more brave on the stages, but the times were certainly showing that they were already doing quite well. The story of Category 1 would be less of a battle and more of a dominance. Bob Bean and Malcolm Smithson commanding that lead, the advantage now up to almost half an hour. For 2nd place, Paul Mankin and Desmond Bell, there would be no change. They were not gaining on the lead, and you might argue there was little point in them trying, but they were not losing their advantage either, so still pushing. In the open rally, there would be no change in the lead for David Hutchinson and Jeff Garnett. They were being cautious, though, after seeing so many people off the road and not wanting to be one of those themselves. James Nichols and David Ullman would remain in 2nd. They were finding the challenge tough, but enjoying being in these classic RAC rally stages. And with it, they certainly held a part of that atmosphere that we remember and love from so long ago. Dave Hemingway and Simon Ashton didn't like the dark. so they would be glad that this time was the last time that they'd be rallying in it this weekend. They take the spotlights off, ending the day with third, but not before a little moment in one of the stages, almost going off the road, and almost collecting David Kynaston, who was also taking an unplanned break in the stages too.
Very tricky there this afternoon, so it was. The Twigleys was a good stage, very nice and smooth, but it was very tricky underneath the trees and slippy. Then we had a bit of ice in Castle O'Or, which gave us a big scare, so it did. Down into 6 left, we ended up the bank, and it was really, and we were steady away in it, you know, so it's very tricky out there tonight. Even the last pass over the two there, I found it slippy, and just been a bit careful here and there, but no, all's good, and a good day behind us, and another big day tomorrow as well, so we can't forget that. So the guys are going to pull the clutch out of the car here and stuff as well, and just check everything over. We're getting a bit of rasp in between gears, so just a lot of miles to do, so all good.
On to the fourth and final day then, and there would be just 5 stages to complete. But that didn't mean it was going to be an easy day by any stretch of the imagination. On to our final results then. Taking the final step on the podium on the Open Rally will be Dave Hemingway and Simon Ashton, claiming the award for the highest place finisher using maps instead of pace notes, a throwback to those RAC rallies of old. For James Nichols and David Ullman, there will be no change through the final stages for them. Second place overall, taking the J4 class win in the process. And for David Hutchinson and Jeff Garnett, things had gone about as well as they could have expected this weekend, taking the Open Rally victory by just under 3 minutes. The endurance and the unexpected nature of this rally stopping us from calling the Category 1 results a done deal, but they would finish just as expected. Stephen Higgins and Sam Spencer would take third place in the category. The pair also finishing second in the cruise using maps this weekend. We said that maps are a dying art. There'd be no change for Paul Mankin and Desmond Bell though. They keep things neat and tidy, reaching the end of the rally with that second place. But that, of course, means that it's victory, and an impressive one at that, for Bob Bean and Malcolm Smithson, taking that category victory by a gargantuan over half an hour advantage by the finish, and a result good enough for 23rd in the rally overall. In Category 2, things were not going to plan for David Gathercole and Martin Don. They crash out in the second stage of the day, thankfully getting going again, although with a significant loss of time and bodywork from that roll. For Wayne Bonser and Rich Ashton, it will be the C3 class win, and taking the final step on the podium in Category 2 as well, although the times to those ahead were almost half an hour. Chris and Ali Cornwell-Brown will be counting their lucky stars even to be here at the finish. They continue what had been in the second part of the event a steady run through the final stages to reach the finish with second in the category. A great end to the event for the pair, who hadn't had much seat time this season before the Roger Albert Clark. But that, of course, means that it's a McRae on top once again. Jimmy McRae, to be exact, with Pauline Gullick alongside. It will be the category victory. That result also seeing them net the highest place non-escort crew this weekend. So on to the overall and Category 3 results then. Roger Chilman and Brian Thomas unable to gain any more time on Robinson in the final stages of the day. But they do manage to keep things going, ending the event with that podium place. Roger, another with limited experience in two-wheel drive, but that didn't show this weekend, we're sure you'll agree. There's frustration at the end of a grueling event for Matthew Robinson and Sam Collis. Victory wasn't to be this year, but that certainly wasn't going to disappoint the pair. Just competing on and finishing this rally were enough of a reward, and the fact that they were right up there on the results was a great way to end an iconic event. But that, of course, means it's victory for Marty McCormack and Barney Mitchell. They'd managed to stay out of trouble, get themselves to the finish, and take with it a small but comfortable margin, taking victory by just over a minute and a half as they crossed the finish line.
So it was on round where them boys are standing in tightens. And 6 left. Don't cut it. Repeat, don't cut. 40. Crest, left 3 left plus. Repeat, crest, left 3 left plus. 100 narrows over dip. 100 narrows over the dip. Over the finish, into 2 left, opens over crest. That'll do. Good lad.
So confirmation then of the results at the end of a rally that, quite frankly, really did rekindle the stories of old. McCormack, after changing the gearbox after leg 1, takes victory. Robinson happy with that second place in the end. Jimmy McRae finishing the event with victory in Category 2 and the highest non-escort of the rally.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. You know, it's been a difficult weekend for a number of reasons. You know, it's a long event. It was tricky up in Wales with it seems like so long ago with the conditions, and then over the weekend, like Saturday was a lot better than Saturday night, Sunday night went into the ice, and this morning going out with the ice again was very, very tricky trying to hold the lead. And obviously, you know, with Jason falling out on Sunday afternoon, you know, it wasn't what you would expect. Like, it was probably more pressure than anything. At least when he was there, I had a target I knew what I needed to do, and I just didn't want to try and go all out and try and get lots of time out of him, because I didn't want to go off the road, because it's such a long event. It's going to be so tricky, something can catch you out. But like when Jason retired, it was just so hard to try and find a rhythm and a pace, especially when we're getting caught out in the ice on Sunday night. So very difficult, very tricky. But wow, what a massive event! Like, you know, and fair play to everybody there. You know, that's done such an absolutely brilliant job of making this event such a success. You know, and the entry and everybody stands for it. The way it was run, everything was absolutely brilliant. And like, you know, we've a crew of friends there as well, helped prepare the car and work with the car. And John McKillop, he prepared the car, built the car for us, shared with engines. John Moynihan rallying, does all our bits and pieces. All the guys in service, Ryan Loughran, all the guys there, you know, the whole pile of guys there make this all possible. They work so hard. And like for Barney here this weekend, you know, this is a massive step up for anything Barney had done before. And he did such a brilliant job staying with me all the time in the notes and keeping the rhythm and trying to get a pace. And no, absolutely fantastic, really good.
So the highly anticipated return of the Roger Albert Clark Rally certainly didn't disappoint the spectators or the crews, or indeed we hope you at home. The RAC returns again in 2 years' time, and it will of course be just as big, just as challenging, just as exciting, and just as iconic. If in the meantime you want more, a feature-length review of the rally is available on the event's website, featuring another complete hour of action. That's it for this episode of Special Stage, and we're sure you'll agree it was a classic. Join us next week for more UK rally and off-road racing. And don't forget to check out our social media for more videos, behind-the-scenes content, and never-before-seen exclusive rally footage. Thank you for watching.
Care 40 for Raidable Crest Titans.